Good afternoon. I'm here with the Tufts University Chaplain Interview Project here in the Interfaith Center, and I'm here with the Muslim chaplain. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Hello, my name's Abdul-Malik Merchant. I am the Muslim chaplain here at Tufts, and I use the he series pronoun.
Great. Well, thank you so much for being here.
It's a pleasure. I hope this seems like it's gonna be fun.
Yeah, I hope so. I hope so. So the first question we've got for you is, how did you become a chaplain at Tufts? Or even how did you pursue a career in the chaplaincy?
The short end of it is, when I was finishing up my undergraduate studies in Islamic studies, I realized I didn't study very hard, if I'm just being very honest. I am what I call cultured in Islamic studies. I don't have a very rigorous training to be a scholar, a jurisprudence scholar, or, a scholar of Arabic or Quranic exegetical text or anything of that nature. But I realized that I also like to help people. And so I knew that I had a very niche area of things that I was familiar with. I had a very specific educational and expertise in that sense. And then I wanted to help people. And so I said, listen, I'm going to try to be either youth coordinator or an assistant imam. And so there aren't very many assistant imam jobs in the country. An imam in our community, the Muslim community, is a community leader, very similar to a pastor or a preacher. And it just literally translates to be a leader in Arabic. The Muslim community is relatively young in America, and so there aren't many institutions that are large enough to have two full-time leaderships. I was blessed, long story short, to start at the ISBCC, the Islamic Society of Islamic Society of Boston Cultural Center, as an assistant imam. And 80% of my work focused on chaplaincy-based work. I focused on pastoral care and counseling, and really just trying to be the glue of the community. Within my first year, I served as a part-time chaplain at Northeastern, and then 3 years into that work, or 3.5, Dr. Celine Ibrahim, who I'd known, I'd visited Tufts many times and met the community. She was leaving and asked me, did I want to apply? She told me about the position being open. I was like, of course. But realistically, I think that I got into chaplaincy because I see chaplaincy relatively in 4 areas. In community-based work, which is like what I did when I worked at the mosque, in higher education, in corrections, or in the medical field of some sort. So as a hospital chaplain, geriatric chaplaincy, corrections, police, jail, military, higher ed, like we are here. And so I've been blessed to, if not volunteer, work in all of these different areas. And it's really just transitioning one's perspective, essentially, to those different unique sets. And so that's sort of how I got into it.
Right. Fair enough. Well, it seems like that leads really well into the question about pastoral care, because that's obviously a very big part of your job, a very big part of the important part of your job, and a big part of why we're having this interview series is so that we can, expose the chaplaincy a little bit more and the resources that the chaplains can offer to people who might not know about that or might not be terribly plugged in to the day-to-day of the chaplaincy, especially with COVID and with our isolation from one another. So how would you describe what pastoral care even is?
Pastoral care has been defined many, many different ways. I'd like to look at it as therapy by unlicensed therapists that can come from a spiritual perspective. So essentially, I'm just maybe an older or younger brother who's here to listen, and perhaps from my experience or my specific tradition can offer something, whether it's wise or not, that'll help your situation. And so the vast part of what I do is just active listening, being there, being present for people, walking alongside of people through whatever they're experiencing and being challenged and living with. And so that's what I would define pastoral care is. And frankly, the most rewarding and biggest part of what I do in chaplaincy.
Fair enough. So when people do come to you with something that they need you to walk with them on, or for wisdom, what do they usually come to you with? What sort of issues do you see?
Everything, any and everything. Because I've been blessed to serve in many different contexts, I've had from, I don't know, marital issues, divorce, death in the family, moving, life transitions, gender identity, sexuality, family, economic, everything. I'm ceased to be amazed at the plethora of things that come my way. But it just means that I hope that people trust and honor the space that we hold together.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Is there anything that you wish that more students knew about pastoral care?
I think there may be some sort of a stigma around it, around counseling in general, psychotherapy, or anything of that nature. And our work I see to be far less formal, while we as clinicians, if you will, or practitioners, honor the space in a very formal way. We're here to be with you in a very informal way, if that makes any sense. So while my ethical values and upholding of the space and honoring of the space is extremely formal and extremely rigorous, there's no judgment there. You come as you are. I don't know if this stands for everyone, but you can curse, you can talk about whatever. It's a safe space for, we can drink some coffee together, maybe nibble on a cookie or something in good times, and just really be in community together in a way that perhaps someone wouldn't think that you could do. Actually, hopefully when our offices are open back up, I have a very extensive coffee setup in my office. And I probably humbly can say it's probably some of the best coffee, yes, better than Tamper, that you're gonna get on the campus. I roast my own beans in a light medium roast. And so I am honored to make coffee for someone and grind the beans for you and make you a nice pour over, to sort of break down the tension that may be there so that we can both bond in a way over this shared drink, and then get into some heavy stuff.
Yeah, coffee and tea is always, sharing coffee or tea is always a great icebreaker in some ways. No, that's fantastic. Speaking of something, because that can sort of be like a ritual, sharing coffee or tea with someone. So I was wondering, is there any ritual, practice, or idea that's been on your mind lately? Just sort of stuck in there and won't come out?
Ritual, practice, idea that's been on my mind.
Or that you find yourself practicing a lot lately?
That I find myself running, definitely. I like, you can't know this, but I'm horribly sweaty and stinky right now. I literally just got back from a run 5 minutes before we got on this. But running has become a spiritual practice for me. It allows me to sort of unwind and decompress. And miraculously, no matter how I'm feeling before the run, I come back feeling better. And so, and it gradually, running for me has been a spiritual practice for me.
Yeah, running is a wonderful, wonderful spiritual practice. This is kind of an out of left field question, but it's on there. So what is something that you believe?
Something that I believe. So I'm writing sort of a blog piece right now, and something I've been thinking about. I believe that I'm a human being, which I believe that I have a creator, uh, or that I'm created, and that I'm fallible, but also that I have a purpose that I don't always know, and I don't know objectively what that purpose is, but through the pursuit of life, I'm hoping to live that in the best way possible, if that makes any sense. So that I'm a created being, inherently deficient, fallible, and of purpose.
Oh, that's fascinating. So you would say that you don't have necessarily a way to determine that purpose, or what sort of thing would you try to do to determine that purpose?
Ooh, you're getting deep on me.
I warned you there would be follow-ups.
So I don't know. So I'm Muslim. I believe Islam is a monotheistic Abrahamic tradition. So there's a clear higher power. I'm just trying to speak in humanist terms right now. But so I do believe there's God and those things. But I think for me, to respond specifically to your question, I don't know necessarily what my purpose is on a macro level, from a elevated perspective, or on a micro level, on a very, zoomed in level. But what I do have is a moral and ethical system that will help me live to my assumption, and as best I can, in the best way possible, as I strive to live out whatever purpose that is. So a very real example of that is this past year I applied to doctoral programs. Unfortunately, the schools that I applied to, I didn't get in for whatever reason. Now, while that was somewhat upsetting, through the work that I do in the jail and talking to the men who, some of them were unjustly imprisoned due to illegal traffic stops, and through talking God, talking theology, talking purpose with them for 7 months prior, allowed me, through me serving them, they served me to be able to be prepared emotionally and spiritually for my rejection. But then also to be open enough that if other things were to come my way, to roll with those punches. So to recognize what the reason why you wanted to be in a doctoral program is because you wanted to get paid to research, read, and write. I'm already reading, and I still am writing. I now have submitted 2 academic pieces for peer review. I'm blessed to have done that. But also there's blog writing. And so it's like, oh, I didn't think about that. And I can still write in an academic style just for public consumption. But I do that anyway. So let's figure that out. And that has enabled me to channel my mind a certain way. And so the purpose, I hope, is, as my teachers tell me, our spiritual path is through love and service, that the purpose is that. But on a sort of micro level, I don't know. I'm just trying to be as best I can as I'm trying to fulfill and live out whatever I'm doing.
Right. No, it makes a lot of sense. I think that's a very interesting distinction, the micro and macro purposes. Well, unfortunately, I think we have to move on from that question. But where would you like to see the chaplaincy go in the future? Tufts chaplaincy, that is.
I don't know. I just hope that we are accessible. I hope that we can go wherever the students need us to go. One thing I love about Tufts chaplaincy is that we're student driven. And so we sort of just go with the flow, in the sense that our programming and the services that we offer are going to be per what is needed at the time. And at least in my idea or understanding of it, my work on a sort of big picture is to create systems that help support whatever may come. And so through the time, I need to make better connections. And I'm in my sophomore year at Tufts, my second year. And so it's deepening the connections that I do have within the chaplaincy on campus, and those type of things. I think one thing that I would like, if I could uh, snap my fingers and something I can see better or would like to see better would be better connections at the Boston Medical Campus, particularly for the Muslim chaplaincy. There are a lot of international students and just Muslims in general on the Boston campus who would either like to be served or don't know they can be served, that frankly are just underserved right now. And so, and I would like to see the ability for the chaplains. A second thing would be further resources put into chaplaincy so that we could be full-time and do that kind of work. But we have budgets and it's a reality.
Yeah, unfortunately, budgets are real. So even with the limited budget, and even though even though you all can't be full-time, I have to imagine there's still a lot of memorable moments created. So what was your favorite sort of moment or most memorable moment working as a chaplain?
My favorite moment was in 2019, spring of 2019. I'm finishing up my master's program right before spring of 2019. No, spring of 2020, right before COVID. We were able to still be on campus together. I was finishing up my master's program. Students were in their finals, and I was like pulling all-nighters in my office, just writing papers and whatnot. And so I said, why don't we make this a social event? And so I texted the MSA president, said, come to the IFC. I'll buy pizza for you guys, and I'll study in my office. You guys can study in the lounge room or wherever you want in the IFC, and we'll make a thing out of it. We'll eat together, and then we'll go back to our respective corners and work. And we did that like two, maybe three times. I don't know. And it just was awesome being able to take a break, because I get distracted easily and know my own style of writing, and I need that distraction sort of. So to be able to leave my office, crack a joke or two, make some coffee, make some tea, jump back in, eat some more food, jump back in. And so those long nights were awesome. Sort of in the grind together, everybody writing and testing and all that stuff.
No, I've actually, I recall having a few of those events recommend or praised to me by a couple people on MSA. I think Ayub and Hassan both talked with me about that. Well, that kind of covers the follow-up question for that about what your favorite event is at Tufts. But do you have an official open to the public chaplaincy event that you really love and that you think more people should, or that you think is underappreciated and you think more people should go to?
Anytime we do AMAs, ask me anything. I'm pretty much an open book anyways. And like to riff. This type of format I'm in my sweet spot. And I have no problem saying I don't know. And like, you've asked me a question beyond my pay grade. But these type of things are awesome and what I love to do. You sent me these questions beforehand. I read them and was like, yeah, we're going to save these. Let's hop on a Zoom soon. I didn't prepare anything, or for some reason I like to riff. Anyways, so yeah, the AMAs that we have both for public and for the MSA, which I don't care, anyone can attend. I wish people knew about them and would do that. But also the Zooms, like setting up one-on-one sessions. Unfortunately, my teachers never put limitations on me meeting them for my needs. They were always available for me. They never charged me. They never judged me. They just were present. And so I try to be that way in my chaplaincy, whether it's at Tufts or outside of Tufts. Our relationship doesn't have to stop if you're no longer at Tufts. And so I think those two things, the AMAs and also just one-on-ones, people took me up on. There's only like one or two students. I don't set restrictions to the amount of times or anything. There's only like one or two students who be like regularly like, yeah, so I want to check in.
Yeah. Speaking of check-ins, so for students who want to come to you for pastoral care, do they have to be religious? Do they have to be Muslim?
You don't have to be anything. You just have to want to talk to somebody about something. I've I've given dating advice. I've given spiritual advice to atheists. I've given gender identity advice to Muslims, which is a taboo thing. I actually have an email now for someone who is queer or whatever. Yeah, you just want to talk and feel that perhaps I can provide a different perspective than you've heard before or would like to hear. So no, you don't have to be Muslim. You don't have to be religious or spiritual or anything really. Because I don't come with that, like if even to Muslims who come talk to me, it's not, I obviously have my own beliefs and my own set of ideas and maybe ideals. But I don't ever, it's a religious, it is a Quranic, an Islamic theological position or jurisprudent position probably, but God says in the Quran there's no compulsion in religion, and so I'm not allowed to force my own ideas, ideals, philosophies on anyone. And so yeah,
that's fantastic. Well, I believe that brings us to the end of the official questions, but there's a few fun ones that I want to hit before we head out.
Yeah.
First of all, do you have a fun fact about yourself? A go-to fun fact?
I don't have a go-to fun fact. No, not really. When I was a teenager, they called me Animal. That was my nickname in the community, and that was because I didn't really think much. I just did, and it came from working in a mosque one time with one of my friends. And, hey, can you hand me that rug? And they're like this big rugs like we have at the IFC. And I just threw it at him, and he was like, "You freaking Animal, man! What's wrong with you?" And that was it. That was Animal throughout my teens.
I think I did get actually called the same thing in middle school at one point. It was a little odd, for a completely different reason. So then, other fun questions. First, you've already sort of addressed this, but outside of your office, what's the best coffee on campus?
I wouldn't know. I'm really snobbish about coffee. Tamper's decent, but it makes a different type of coffee than I like. It's a bit more roasted than a bit more darker of a roast than I would like. If I was to guess, though I haven't had it, I would say it's Naphtali, the Jewish rabbi. Apparently, he has an AeroPress in his office, and he's pretty snobbish about his coffee too. So I would have to say Naphtali. Though I'm pretty sure he goes to Tamper. The Goddard has a new espresso machine that is pretty good. I have to give them, Shelby does a good job at stocking up with decent beans, so I would have to say there.
Yeah, we've the chaplaincy staff has not really been allowed to Goddard much, but I was there for one in-person shift last semester, and it looks like a spaceship a little bit.
Yeah.
Your coffee machine. Then, if not favorite coffee, how about your favorite ice cream flavor?
Butter pecan, without a shadow of a doubt. It's butter pecan. It's the best mix between walnuts or pecans, which I love, and like a French vanilla if you haven't had it. And then, okay, since we're asking fun facts, and I've been sort of healthy eating for the last year or so now, there's a company called Enlightenment that makes like butter pecan. It was a bunch of different flavors. They are keto friendly, and they don't spike your glucose levels. And I think they have like 5 carbs in half a pint, 10 in a whole pint. And so you can down that bad boy and not feel bad.
Fair enough. Well, do you have a hot take on whether it's pronounced pecan or pecan?
No, I have no clue. I think I say pecan, but if I wanted to sound fancy, I'd say pecan.
Yeah. Because I don't know. I
don't either.
I feel like everyone I talk to pronounces it differently, and I was
It's
hoping
potato,
I could
potato.
get some wisdom from
No,
our honorable
I told
chaplain.
you,
And
I have no problem telling you I don't know. Yeah.
fair enough. Fair enough. All right, then just one last question, which is, if you could, since you are now in the business of giving advice, if you could go back and give your younger self one piece of advice, one piece of wisdom that you've received in all of your years studying and all of your years serving various communities, what would that piece of wisdom be?
So I'm of two minds. One would be just trust the process, because I'm a firm believer in that the tapestry of experiences that we've had throughout our lives makes us who we are today. And I don't think that I would be the same person if I was to retrospectively go back. Like, what is that show called on Netflix? Umbrella Academy. They go always try to change something, but by changing it, it changes the future, or whatever other sci-fi or fantasy we're talking about. So yeah, I don't know if I wanted to intervene too much. So just trust the process. So sort of try to give myself some encouraging advice that it's going to be okay. Just trust the process of whatever's happening, and to be open to embrace it for what it is. I think probably then on the other perspective, I would so trust the process. The other would be some form of self-encouragement, to believe in myself a bit more. For many years, I didn't think that I was very smart, because I didn't know how I learned, and I didn't know the style or how to learn properly that works for me. I'm a visual learner, and therefore I need to write things out. Memorization is not my strong suit. In the Eastern world, when you like, so you have to memorize text, that just doesn't work for me. And so I knew that I could work very hard to get decent grades, but I'm just not that smart. And I was like, okay, that's fine. And so halfway through my master's, someone told me, dude, you're very smart. Stop saying that. And I was like, really? Oh, okay. And so I didn't realize that until I was like 28. And so, yeah, I would probably just tell myself something like that. Some words of encouragement, like, you got this, it's gonna be all right. You are smart, something along those lines. And then I hope that wouldn't change the first part too much, like re-alter the course, except in a good way. Um, and then lastly, probably, again, still the same first point, but like, don't waste so much time. I would probably tell myself to read more. Growing up, my mom thought I was dyslexic. She had me tested 3 times, fortunately, but unfortunately, I'm not. I say unfortunately because I don't have an excuse to why. I just didn't like reading. And I just didn't like reading growing up until I was about 25. My wife was pregnant with my son, he'll be 8 soon. And I said, I want my kid to be a reader. And I realized, oh, poop, my kid's not gonna be a reader unless I'm a reader. And so then I forced myself to get into reading. Now I love reading. I wish that I had started reading or fell in love with reading much earlier on and read more widely, uh, to just be even more cultured and stuff like that, which is also feeds into point number two as to why I always felt behind, because I'm not as widely read as I'd like to be, or other people are more widely read, and it just made me feel less than. But yeah, I think going back to point number one, I wouldn't change too much. I wouldn't change anything realistically, except for trying to be grateful. So the point that I try to tell myself now, which isn't the question, was just being grateful for it all. Trying to have a healthy sense of loving surrender, as one of my teachers says, but also just a gratitude for all of the experiences, so that hopefully I can turn them into positive regardless of where they are, so that I can turn them into not just healthy emotional things to help. Data, empirical data shows that religious practices can lead to positive coping, but also to make me a better person. And so, yeah, just be more grateful, more humble.
Wonderful. Well, I think that's a great note to close out on. thank you so much for being willing to do this interview.
This is awesome.
And how can people reach you if they want to reach out for pastoral care or just to talk?
Just shoot me an email at my Tufts email address, am.merchant@tufts.edu. If you Google Muslim Chaplain, Merchant, Tufts, Abdul-Malik, Tufts, whatever, it'll come up in Google. And so, yeah.
Great. Well, thank you so much.
Of course. Thank you.